Right. Good morning, everyone. Namaskar. Okay, so I'm actually going to moderate this, so just bear with me. So I think we have everybody here. We have somebody new as well joining today, Sahu from Indonesia. So I think for Sahu, what we can do is usually we start with um, 10 minutes of silence. Sahu, the way we do this is we just, sit in silence, close our eyes, and then whatever the thoughts are coming, I prefer that you don't engage with the thoughts uh, as if you're standing on a railway platform and just coming, seeing the trains come and go. So try not to engage with your thoughts, just let them come and go. Whatever is coming doesn't matter. It's irrelevant here. It's just to remain silent and not to get engaged or attached to the thoughts. So let's do that for 10 minutes. That will bring everybody down to some calm and peace, and then we will start a session. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so let's take a minute. Okay. Did everybody had a good summer? I guess we had a good break. Yeah, Poonam, did you have a good summer?
Hello. Good evening. Here, Rudy. Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, we had good summer. Summer is
Okay.
still going on in India.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. How was everybody else's summer? Good?
Yes, we had a nice time.
Okay. Wonderful. So I think today we wanted to discuss I think a topic that last time we failed to discuss was on surrender. I think we should take that topic up. Um, so I'll open it to everybody. What does surrender mean to each one of you? Let's start with Poonam. What does surrender mean when you talk about from a spiritual perspective? What does surrender mean to you?
I can go on and on for surrender. Or I met one of my mentor, just giving uh, little background. So in surrender, we called it as Samarpan Yoga. So that's a mentor I learned that from India, and we called it Samarpan. And Samarpan to whom? So Samarpan to the Lord, to the Supreme, to the Divine. So that is like like I am yours kind of feeling. That whatever is happening is is happening with the feeling with the will of the divine, and I accept it. So that is Samarpan or surrender to me. That's what I've understood. This is a theoretical understanding.
Okay. Okay. So surrender
I'm
to a
able
higher
to
power. Basically, surrender
practice
to a higher
completely.
power,
I
right?
get agitated. Oh, higher power. Yes,
Okay.
right.
What about anybody else? Srinivas, Pete, Sahu, Chandrani, Michelle?
Uh, I was going to say, surrender to me is letting go of things I can't control.
Okay.
For me, surrender means give up some of the things which we don't need. Uh, Anger and obsession and uh, materialistic needs more than the needed to survive. Those are the surrenders.
Okay. Sahu, what does surrender mean to you?
Yes, good evening, everybody. Yes,
Yeah, good evening,
surrender.
Sahu.
And the surrender is the things that which is not required in our life path. As two, three things as I know, which is ego, which is our emotion, and our anger. So I think to the life to become smooth, we should surrender these three, four things, as I understand.
Okay. Srinivas?
Good morning, Guruji.
Good morning, Srinivas.
I want to sincerely, I want to listen to you.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think from here, Chandrani, Shaman, are they there? Chandrani? Okay. So I think so two things from here. So there's two interesting things. One was Poonam saying that we should surrender to a higher power. Okay. The other thing was what Michelle said is to let go of everything which is not in our control. But let's take from that. Let's take from Michelle's thing. Do you believe, Michelle, that you have anything in your control?
Um, no. I mean, I want to feel like I have control over certain things, but ultimately, if you look at the bigger picture, no, we don't.
Right. So if we don't have any control over anything, then surrender in its true form, which you're right, is to let go of everything, right? Because you have nothing in your control. Then that would actually equate to letting go of everything, which is complete surrender, which would be equal to unconditional surrender. So I saw I heard what Pete said and what Sahu said, right? Which was let's surrender anger or let's surrender ego. But the question is that who is surrendering to whom? Poonam said, let's surrender to a higher consciousness. That assumes that you are an individual. That assumes that you are an object and there is a subject that you're surrendering to. But all this while, over the last, 11 months, there's one thing that we've discussed and we've always tried to come back to is, you know, look at everything from your starting point. If you assume that you are an individual, then everything else kicks in. But if you are not an individual and your starting point was, that you were this pure consciousness or you were God or you were, energy, XYZ, you were reality, then from that basis, who is surrendering to whom? And if you are surrendering and you have no control, then you're surrendering, 100%. There is no, when you say surrender, then there has to be absolute surrender. It cannot be that I will surrender few points and I will keep the rest. So Poonam, question to you is when you say that you want to do samarpan, right? That is assuming that you as an individual are now doing samarpan to somebody else. But you are that somebody else also, isn't it?
So, Guruji, I missed a couple of sessions. I'm sorry, but for that, so I am sort of, still on the, on the thought process that there is this higher power, and I'm there. And then there was this another concept which was introduced to me with some surrender. It was like I am nothing. So I am like zero. So I am nothing. I'm just a nobody. I'm just nothing. Come to
So,
that level
yeah.
of I am nothing in Samarpan.
Correct. So your starting point for people usually, because when you're starting as an individual, right, it's very difficult to um, absorb the concept of I am nothing, right? Or I am. Because nothing, you don't need to put anything. If there is nothing, then there is nothing. But the starting point is good. But then when are you able to, as you say that I am now practicing samarpan, which is surrendering to a higher power, are you able to surrender completely?
No, I'm not able to. That's what I said, that I'm not able to. I feel that I am the doer. I have control. I need to do these things. I need to do that. And I have all the emotions which you call negative. So I have all the positive and all the negative emotions. And I sometimes I'm good and sometimes I'm very in a very different domain. Vibrating at a very different frequency. So, no, I'm not able to.
So during
I
that time when you are
have a
when you get all
question.
these, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Ashish, I just have a question. When we're talking of surrendering, what are we surrendering? What is it that we are thinking, and what is it that we are surrendering? Whether to a higher self or whether we are also the higher self, but what is it that we are surrendering?
So what Michelle said, right? She wanted to surrender everything that she believed was not in her control. So you're correct. If your starting point, Chandrani, is nothing, right? Then
Mhm.
who is surrendering to whom and what is being surrendered?
Yeah, what is being surrendered?
Nothing. There's nothing to surrender.
Mhm.
And there is nobody to surrender to.
Mhm.
So what I've always said is just be, right? There is nothing to do, to think, to do, not to do. Because reality, your starting point, has no assumption, has no questions. But where Poonam is starting from, which is correct, is she's starting from the I am consciousness, right? That there is an I, there is an individual who is separate from, other individuals. There is a creation, there is world, and each one has some role, which then people have free will and karma and the whole 9 yards, which comes around this perspective of individuality. Now, as long as you believe in your individuality, as long as you believe that there is this whole structure or conceptual or this is what reality is, the phenomenal world, then these questions arise as to, you know, who do I need to surrender to? What do I need to surrender? Uh, Otherwise, in reality, there is no question of this. So for Michelle,
Can I
go ahead, Poonam.
please complete when I'll ask the question?
So for Michelle, that was the point is she's like, look, I want to surrender to certain things which are not in my control. And then there are certain things which I believe I have control over. And hence she wants to surrender something. Now, in her point of view, she's like, it's only actions or thoughts or certain amount of things or emotions that she feels is, the negative or whatever, however she looks at it. She says, this is my box of things that I don't want to keep. I want to surrender that. But who is she surrendering that to? Also is a question. So the key here is valid, Chandani. The key here is to introspect as to who is surrendering to whom and what is being surrendered. That is the key. That is the introspection. With every thought, emotion, action, doing, whatever is going on, as you introspect more and more, and you remember that there is nothing to surrender and there is no one to surrender to, if you hold on to that, then eventually you don't have that, you don't go out. You don't think about those things. You remain in your original state of being. Go ahead. Who was Poonam? You were asking?
Yes, Guruji, I was asking, it is so interesting. This perspective is so interesting. Thank you. But then there is this confusion, and I want to clarify it over here.
Yeah.
So I joined.
Poonam, you cut off. We can't hear you. Poonam?
They also say that you surrender. Hello, am I audible now?
Now you're audible.
Yes.
Poonam, we've lost you again.
Okay. Am I audible still?
You are, yeah, now you are, but we had lost you. We didn't hear anything.
Yeah. So they say that during the ISKCON temple, a few of the meetings I attended and satsangs I heard. So they also talk about surrender, and they say to surrender to Krishna, to the Krishna consciousness, that surrender to him. And for a very, very
Poonam, we've lost you again.
I I thought that I'm in surrender and I'm in samarpan. Am I again audible? So that
So
feeling gave me.
I heard up to your Krishna consciousness. I heard up to that in an ISKCON, they're asking you to surrender to Krishna.
Yes. So now, for a very long time, I practiced that, due to certain incidents. I thought that Krishna is taking care of me and my family and everything. And whatever is happening, I surrender. I am in total samarpan to Krishna. And I felt a sense of relief from the burden of responsibilities, and things kept happening. And I kept thanking Krishna that thank you for giving me this. Thank you for taking care of my life. Thank you. And so I was pretty well doing with that thought. Uh, so I don't know. I mean, like, so now there is this thought. So there is this, you know,
So your thought, your
my
thought of,
question.
so even your thought of surrendering is a thought, right?
Yes.
And
No, I thought that I was surrendering because I was able to accept, and I was in gratitude, and things happened miraculously, as if some divine power is like, making ways for me. I mean, at least I felt that.
right, but still, that is still through your thought, right? You are conceptualizing that there is something called Krishna. You have conceptualized Krishna. You've not seen Krishna. You assume that Krishna is
No.
some god. You conceptualized him as a divine power. You have then conceptualized your surrender to this entity called Krishna. And as things were going on, as Michelle said, that even though she believed she was in control, you've surrendered and something else is now driving your life, which in any ways, that means that you are not in control anymore.
Yes.
Correct?
I
But
could
this is
understand that I'm not in control.
correct. But this is all still conceptualized, still as a thought. What I'm
Yes.
trying to tell you here is you have to transcend it, because as long as you believe in duality, as long as you believe that the phenomenal world is real, as long as you believe that whatever is happening to you as an individual, the thoughts will continue. You still identify with the thought. Now you've identified with the thought of Krishna.
Hmm.
And the
Right.
only way to get out of this is to transcend this. And the only way to transcend is to question your own individuality. Because your
Okay.
individuality has no existence. It cannot exist. By all the scriptures, all the definitions that even ISKCON is telling you, if it's non-dual and there is only Krishna, and we all think that this is a reflection of God, that we are all made in God's image, then how can the reflected be different from the reflection be different from the reflected? How can Krishna, which was the starting point as whatever, now looks as like Poonam? Not possible.
Right.
Krishna can only look at like Krishna. Krishna can't look like Poonam. So the self-inquiry, right, which is what Ramanna and everybody else was teaching, is to question this. As long as you believe that there is an individual called Poonam, Poonam will still believe in Krishna, Ram, Jesus, Allah, XYZ. Until then, the concept of surrender will remain in a dual perspective, that one is surrendering to something else and there is something to surrender to. But if there is nothing in your control and this thing was not there, this is just like a dream drama, which we've talked about many times, then you are just the subject. And then not even that, even the subject object relationship will dissolve at some point. So the question in who am I is this I, right? That's what we say, that the I is the first thought. Without this subject, there is no objectivity. And as long as this subject is available, it believes in something else. It keeps believing in, it keeps going on. It keeps believing. Today it'll believe in Krishna, tomorrow it'll believe in something else, third day it'll believe in something else. So you are still living within, even though you say that you've surrendered, you're still living within the conceptualized, perspective.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah,
Right.
it's a good starting point, but it's not the end.
Right. Got you.
Because the beginning was something different. If you hold on to your original beginning, then everything has ended. Nothing, because nothing had actually begun after that, and nothing will ever end after that. So, which is why I keep saying, remember your true self. Remember your starting point. We are all looking at ourselves from a different vantage point, from a vantage point of the reflected, or sorry, from the vantage point of the reflection, not the reflected. But you are the reflected. You are not the reflection. The reflection is just the reflection. Which is why in the scriptures they give the example of the rope and the snake. Srinivas recently gave a good example of the rainbow. Rainbow is only the way light is falling and being reflected. So there appears to be a rainbow. Same way with the snake and rope, or the rope and snake. The rope is there. Snake only appears the way the rope is being reflected through something. So your individuality also is just a reflection being reflected through thoughts. But what is actually the original reflect? What is the original? Original is nothing. Original is pure, as they call it, pure consciousness, Satchitananda that they call. That's what it means. It means that pure is pure consciousness. And because of its proximity, something on top of it has appeared out of nothing, activated the power of consciousness, like you dream. Like in your dream, you are just there. Suddenly the dream appears on its own. You identify with the dream. As long as you're sleeping, you identify the dream, believing that the dream is real. When you wake up, it's gone. But what activated the dream? It was your consciousness, the base. which is what it means when they say that it is activated by the power of this consciousness. But the consciousness has never been affected by it. By its proximity, there appears to be something. So your individuality appears to be there, but in reality, it cannot exist, because the reflected and the reflection have to be the same. So the only problem is why the reflected looks different from the reflection is because something in the middle has appeared, which is the reflective medium. In a rainbow, it's the light. In this case, the reflective medium are your thoughts, or the thoughts, not your thoughts, but thoughts. So as long as you are believing in, even in any thought, as long as you're believing in individuality, then you're still conceptualizing God as an entity. There is no God. There is nothing to surrender to. There is no surrender. So eventual surrender in its true sense, in its true meaning, bhakti, surrender, samarpan, in its true sense, means to know who you truly are. Because once you know and abide in that knowing, everything else falls flat. That is what surrender means in its pure essence.
Okay.
Yeah?
Right.
Okay. Srinivas, you wanted
So,
to say
third,
something? Sorry, go ahead, Poonam.
so
Finish your thought.
Guruji, I have another question, maybe because I'm joining after long again.
Go ahead.
Maybe I'm not at that level, but then my question is that these real life things happen and we get disturbed. And we
So
do get
again,
disturbed. So who is getting disturbed, and then how can we change it? And what
so
is
so so forget about the emotion of disturbance. What you need to question is who is it that's getting disturbed?
I?
Yeah. So try and find that I, try and find the subject. Don't get attached to the objectivity part, whether it's action or emotion or thought, whatever it is, right? The objectivity part, forget about that. What you need to find is the subject. And when you say I, try and find out where this I is. Does it have any substantial existence? Can you find it? See, this I is what has come, this I thought or I consciousness is what has arisen, which is the cause of all misery. This identifier is the cause of everything, is the cause of all miseries, all problems. But this is a problem, this is an imaginary problem, because itself is a thought. And what we say is not one, it's an imaginary problem of a mistaken identity. You, as pure consciousness, have started to believe that you're something else. Stop believing in it. Why are you believing in it?
Ashish, I have a question.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, Chandrani here. We are all, living our, physical existence is there. And if you have physical existence, you do have day-to-day problems, various problems, which not only is centered around me, but, it involves other people also. So how can you be completely oblivious of everything and your day-to-day existence and just pretend that there is nothing, no one, there's no God, no me? Like, how does that work? Like the day-to-day problems that you have, say it also involves your family, your friends. So it's just not about myself also. So how do you detach yourself from everything and just pretend that there is no problem, there's no issue, and nothing exists? How do you
So
do that?
that's the practice. Didi, that's the practice. This. So
But is
as
that
you,
practical when when you're staying? You have your family life. You're staying in a within a specific social fabric, and day-to-day issues always will crop up. So can you do away or wish all that? Isn't that actually trying to be like an ostrich and trying to pretend that there's nothing exists, there's no problem, and there's only bliss? Or should we make a concerted effort to also solve those problems? Because my problems can also create problems for others also. So I may have
So
reached a state where I don't care, but it might affect others also, right?
yeah, so I think where you are having this, where the confusion is you're
Hmm.
saying again in believing that you are have an individual existence,
Mhm,
right? Whatever the drama is,
mhm,
it's going to happen. Nobody can change that. Where the issue has is that you've identified with the drama to be real. And how you've identified is as an individual, you're saying, look, I am in control. If I don't do certain things, then it will have an effect on others as well. So whatever is going to happen is going to happen. The crux here is that
But
whatever
here, Ashish, how
one
is
sec.
that happening? Since you are saying that there is no a higher power, there is nothing, there is nobody, then how are these things also happening? Like what we call as
So
destiny, as fate.
yeah, so what how does your dream happen?
That's, I think, what there's a theory that that's a part of our subconscious mind, that, it's there, and that sort of manifests in the form of a dream. That's
So
one
same
theory.
way, yeah, so when you sleep, you don't say that today I'm going to dream about, X, Y, and Z, right?
Mhm.
You fall out to sleep and then suddenly this dream appears till you wake up. And within that dream, you've identified with some character there. So you start to believe, when you've identified, you start to believe as long as the dream is going on, you begin to believe that dream to be real. And in there, the characters are doing their things and they are believing that they are in control and they are managing all this and the whole thing is happening. So this is exactly the same way. Your problem is that you are looking from the point of view as Chandani Chakravarti. If you take one step back and look at yourself as just pure consciousness and nothing else but pure consciousness, and you have the same conviction and believe that you are nothing but just pure consciousness, just the way you have the same conviction and believe that you are Chandani Chakrabarti as an individual, you will start to find that non attachment starts happening on its own. But you have to keep remembering that. So initially, it starts with back and forth. Even if you have done, let's say, an action, let's say that you at one point you still believe that you're individual and you did an action, and whatever was the consequences of that action happened, good or bad does not matter. If you can then remember that, look, it was not me. Whatever was happening is happening within a dream drama. And remember this, eventually you will find that you have now non-attached yourself or detach yourself from the action as well as the outcome of the action. So the more you do this, the more you remember, the more you abide in that remembrance, you will see that eventually things will stop affecting you. Whatever is going to happen as Chandani Chakrabarti as a character will happen. Just the way in a dream, there is another character that is doing it. Where the difficulty happens is that we start identifying ourselves with that individuality, with that character. And then we start to believe that we are in control, we have destiny, we have fate, we have free will, we have karma. Then you go into the swinger things. Okay. If you believe it's happening, it's happening. Whether it's Chandani Chakrabarti or whether it's, your entire social, strata that may have affected. If you are not real as Chandani Chakrabarti, then how are everybody else real? That means they are also characters within the dream drama.
Hey, Ash, may I cut in for a second?
Yeah.
One of the things that I found interesting that she said was, how will other people react to my surrender? And I found just through me, surrendering to what people think or feel or want of you is the hardest thing to do. But once you surrender how people think, feel towards you, there's a weight lifted off your shoulders. I'm not saying it's easy, but there's also a respect that people learn to also give you. It's a hard, it is a hard feature, but if you work at it, it comes. And then there's, like you said, there's the spirituality of freedom.
But Michelle, go one step beyond that. You've surrendered as an individual, but if you as an individual have no substantial existence, then anybody else as an individual also has no substantial existence. It's just not that your individuality does not exist.
Correct.
Individuality per
Correct.
se does not exist.
It's baby
So,
steps, you know.
right?
I'm
So,
getting better every day.
so whether somebody thinks or something happens to somebody else is all irrelevant. There is no relevance to it. Family, friends, work, money, fame, fate, destiny. The end has no relevance.
I have a few comments, Guruji.
Go ahead, Srinath.
Um, from listening to you, Guruji, what I recognize is this is overcoming the feeling of I and the individual, like separate consciousness, a sentient being or a living thing feels. So we are all getting carried away in a flood of thoughts and um, whatever body is offering, the hormones and emotions, all that. These are all thoughts, emotions are a flood in which I is making one carried away. And when we disconnect with the I, it's like standing on the shore of the bank or the bank of a river and not getting carried away in the flood. Um, I- I- in easy way, surrender is overcoming I and disconnecting from the I. It sounds like. Is that what it is?
Correct?
Overcoming the feeling of I is what all this is, and that makes sense. Um, someone asked, we are in life, how we can disconnect from I. See, Buddha, he also like a person like us who was already into life, but he is able to get up one night and get out of the world and focus on what he felt is the important thing. The same way, like if someone dies in the neighborhood, it doesn't affect our emotion much. But if someone dies in our own family, it affects us. But if we die, our death is also imminent. Then um, that emotion must be much bigger than someone dying in our own family. Means me dying is much more affecting me than like my mother or my son or my wife dying. But I don't know why people don't see it. What I'm trying to say is, we are already into life, recognizing that we don't have control, and that our eye is tricking us into all this play is hard. But from what Guruji is saying, the I is the one that is fooling us. We can learn as we look at that concept. If we give enough time, we can learn and gain the ability to overcome. I is what I learned over a period after coming in contact with Guruji. Yeah, that's all, Guruji. I took
That's
long.
correct. That's correct, Srinivas. Your understanding is correct. Now you've got to implement this understanding into the daily life. Pete, you have any questions today? You're awfully quiet. Sahu, I know you're new.
Guruji, I think as Srinivas mentioned, um, see, I is life. What is life? So since we are associated with the life, also there are other lives. So is one life equal to other life? If life is an energy and one energy, other energy, there is no distinction. At that, but I equal to you is that is what exactly is when it is realized, there is nothing to surrender and nothing to own also. So that may be ultimate reality, but we don't accept that reality when we have associated with the life. Life itself is not a permanent thing. It's a temporary things comes in the form, and it is like a dream, and that it vanishes. When it merges into the universe, I think that makes a lot of sense what you have been talking. And how do you get that feeling in the life is the beauty of the power of the knowing about that one. That is what we are trying to get that one from you. I
Correct.
mean, yeah, that's my
Correct.
thought. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the things that I'm planning to do now, going forward, I'm going to start
Mhm,
a new book
mhm,
called The Threefold Path,
mhm,
which basically now, we've discussed over the last 11 months or so about the understanding piece, right? Just
mhm,
to bring this knowledge,
mhm,
um, into the understanding part, so that there is this knowledge.
mhm,
I think a lot of you have at least tried to understand or come to a point where you have started to understand it. I think it's important now that a lot of people have now said, look, great, wonderful, I've understood it, but how do I do this? How do I get into non-attachment, or how do I surrender, or how do I start um, believing in, what reality is or what pure consciousness is, right? So if you had read the book, there was a threefold path that I had created where I had taken all the understandings and tried to bring it down into steps. But I think what people have said, look, this is fine, but we need further, simplification, or further, step by step, because today I think people understand this in more step by step thing, like, wake up in the morning. So I don't think I can do that, but I will try and write a book on the threefold path. And I think what I would like to do also is going forward, our sessions that we have, whether they're satsang or one-on-one, I want to stress and focus only on that. I want to now, take you guys from, from the periphery of the understanding, um, to more detailed implementation of, how to do this, right? How do I get to a point, as Chandani mentioned, how do I get to a point where, while the actions and the emotions, everything is going on in, day-to-day life, but I'm still non-attached to that. So I'm actually watching myself, play the game of life with all of, things that are in relation to my individuality. So how do I um, get to a point where I'm just actually observing myself doing it? So Chandani Chakravarti seems to be just going on like as if I was watching another character in my dream. So, and then, we'll discuss more about in the next session onwards, just on the threefold path. So we'll drill down that. We'll try and get to a point where you guys can start taking that threefold path and then practicing that into your day-to-day lives. And then the idea is to then give you also a journal with that so you can make your notes and then figure out how you're progressing towards this. The ultimate understanding which comes from this exercise is that there was no exercise needed in the first place. But unfortunately, you have to go through the process to come to the realization that there was no process and nothing was actually needed to be done. That is the I would say the joke of life, or the joke of this whole thing. Um, but I think this is where I would like to steer you guys now towards, which is where we focus on more than discussing, but really getting down onto the practice piece now. That, and then, in our sessions that you come back, probably I will ask you what did you guys do in your, after learning and understanding and taking this threefold path and implementing it. What is the progress that you've had? What is the knowing you've had? What are the experiences you've had? Um, so I think that's the plan going forward. And while doing that, I'll also write the book. So the blogs and the whatever little bit thing that we do on social media, that will all now gear towards the threefold path. So I think we are now almost an hour into this. Sahu, I know you have any questions, Sahu, before we end? And I know Poonam, your hand is up. You may want to ask something, right?
Yes, Guruji, but then I believe I'll lower my hand. I have so many questions in my mind, but then maybe I'll ask them in the next session because
Now
my
you
mind
guys
is running.
also, yeah. Plus, you also all you guys have the option to do one-on-one sessions with me. So don't feel shy about reaching out to me or setting up a time where we can have one-on-one sessions, and we can I can answer, because if we are having one session every 2 weeks or one session a month, then what I don't want is that you know you guys don't ask. I prefer that you ask, have a session, and then go and implement. So rather than waiting a full month, or this time that goes out, and then again you get busy with your with the daily life. So please just reach out to me. All of you have my number. I believe there is a calendar, but I think we're just rechanging that calendar. But just reach out and set up time, and we can do one-on-one sessions. For this, my doors are open 24/7. Don't hesitate.
Guruji,
So, right,
one
thank
in,
you. So I'll use that opportunity,
Yeah.
Guruji, and I would really love to speak to you on a one-on-one session.
um, Guruji, one sentence I want to make. I really like your last sentence, writing a book. to understand what is I. And Chandrani asked a very interesting question: how to differentiate, from the reality of today's life. I think the path towards liberating ourselves, maybe in your book coming up book, I think that is what we all need, so that may be a secret of solution to the lot of human problems as of today. Once we understand the real who am I and how I could you is even understanding that itself will solve 90% of the human problems, to my knowledge. Fully, probably we are not capable of doing under knowing that much level, because we are still having a life form, and we identify. Just realizing that one might give a very, very huge advantage to the 90% or more than 90% of the world problem in all the respect. So I'm looking forward for your book to read.
Okay, good. All right, Sahu, we'll end it with you.
Okay, thank you. And it is our learning starting. And of course, whenever it is required, I'll talk to you, maybe one-to-one, and somehow I'll be reach out to you.
Okay. All right, I guess that's it for us for today. Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
joining.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
bless you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Guruji. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye.
Namaskar.
Namaskar.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.